The Nintendo Switch Pro has been the talk of the town for all Nintendo fans for the past who knows how many years. And finally, I think it's time to make a video wrapping up everything we know from various leaks, rumors, and whatnot, combined with what I actually want to see in this new generation of our favorite handheld console hybrid, to make this one video the one-stop shop for everything you need to know about the rumored Nintendo Switch Pro, or Nintendo Switch 2, or new Nintendo Switch, or Super Nintendo Switch, or whatever they do end up calling it. I'm personally leaning towards Switch Advanced, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Alright, let's just jump right on into it. We're gonna start this off with what we know. Timestamps, though, will be in the description if you just want to jump into, like, what I want, my personal wish list. So first of all, it's impossible to talk about this rumored Nintendo Switch Pro without talking about all the leakers and insiders, and I'm just gonna be honest, I think they're 99% of the time just saying random stuff to get clicks. Not many people talk about this within the Nintendo community, but I just think the majority of leakers or insiders either don't have reliable information or just don't have any information at all and are just saying things. Even with as unpredictable as Nintendo is, there are some things that everyone can just guess if you follow the company and guess for long enough. And so I think certain leakers, guess things that are pretty obvious, gain reputability that way, and then just, absolutely are just completely wrong when it comes to the more in-depth guesses they put out. Obviously, not every leak can be true, since there are dozens of articles discussing leaks that directly contradict each other. On top of that, I feel like certain leakers have just said a Nintendo Switch Pro is going to launch every year since like 2019, so I don't really want to focus on that within this video. Instead, let's look at what we actually know. Nintendo themselves said there is no console coming in the fiscal year of 2022, and for those of you who are unaware, the fiscal year isn't the calendar year, the fiscal year ends in March, so at least we know there's no Switch Pro or no new Switch coming before the end of March 2023. However, moving along from that, Nvidia is obviously a huge player within the production of the original base Nintendo Switch, as it runs on a custom Nvidia Tegra X1 chipset, so obviously there's a clear partnership between Nintendo and Nvidia to just get that produced. Recently, Nvidia suffered a bunch of leaks, one interesting one being about the Tegra 239 chip. The leak kind of confirmed the existence of it, and on top of that referenced NVN2, which is obviously a suspected follow-up to the Switch's current graphics API, which is just NVN. This same thread also mentioned that the API contains references to Nvidia's upscaling tech, which is DLSS 2.2, and ray tracing support. For those of you who don't know, if you have an Nvidia graphics card, DLSS is basically something you can run in the background for certain games, and it'll take the picture that your graphics card is outputting and actually just AI upscale it, so it's very minimal extra, bandwidth taken up by the GPU itself, and while it's not natively rendering 4K, it essentially gives you an output of 4K, and it's good enough now to where that's pretty difficult to tell the difference. So that's obviously super interesting, and sticking on the 4K train, there were 4K dev kits sent to developers as reported by Bloomberg in September of 2022. Quickly, dev kits are basically, stripped down versions of the consoles that just have all the same internals sent to prominent developers by console manufacturers like Nintendo, so that these companies can kind of get an early start and don't have to start, optimizing and developing games for the new console when the new console launches. It obviously just gives them, a head start so that they can have games ready for launch or soon after. These dev kits were reported to have 4K resolution, which is super cool, but something obviously Nintendo denied because they're not gonna, say, oh yeah, these leaks are accurate, this is what we're doing. However, something that they really can't deny is that a recent probe into the Switch's firmware revealed this line of code, which could indicate the potential for a 4K output using DisplayPort over USB 3. Now, this is definitely the most concrete evidence we have, because, it's not relying on an Nvidia leak or a Bloomberg report about dev kits. But at the same time, even though this was found recently inside the Switch's firmware, it could obviously always just be something like a throwaway line that Nintendo put there, just kind of, hoping that, I don't know, maybe they were planning on it and then it's scrapped. Like, we don't know anything for sure until they officially release it, which is why I just, want to make that disclaimer here. But all the signs that are somewhat credible that we can look at do point to 4K being one of the main draws to this brand new Switch console. Again, whether this is a Switch Pro, it's just like a 4K Switch, kind of like how we got the OLED Switch, or a brand new Switch 2, we don't really know. But now let's jump into what I want to see in this brand new Switch. Honestly, yeah, having a 4K resolution is nice, but personally, I don't care about it that much. I'd rather just have a stable 1080p 60 FPS. I definitely don't think we need a 4K resolution screen on this new console, as in my opinion, the Switch OLED looks great enough with the OLED tech individually lighting up each pixels and the 1080p resolution. I don't think we really need 4K. As long as we're able to hit a stable 1080p 60 FPS and this new, all these new chips and this new tech gives developers more headroom so they don't have to compromise their artistic vision, that's all I personally care about from a graphics perspective. However, this next point is way more important, and the thing I care about the most, well, actually the thing I care about the second most. The thing I care about most is you guys going down and hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, it helps out a ton. If you enjoy our content, we got a lot more coming like this, and if you have any video ideas too, leave a comment down below. If we use your video idea, obviously we'll put your comment in the screen, and thank you guys so much for leaving those. So yeah, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and drop a comment down below. Alright, so here's the thing I care about most, and that is backwards compatibility. So obviously, if we get a Switch Pro, then it will be backwards compatible. It won't even really need to be backwards compatible, because technically it's still within the same generation. But if Nintendo is leaning towards a Switch 2, which is very well possible, being able to play our original Switch games on this console is a must. I know people give the Switch a lot of crap because the retro library is somewhat questionable when it comes to like not having a virtual console, but at least in terms of Wii and Wii U games that were ported over to the Switch, we are swimming in an embarrassment of riches. Almost all the best Wii U games were ported over, and we're even getting some great Wii games like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and that new Kirby remake. If Nintendo launched a brand new Switch and we weren't allowed to play with our old cartridges or be able to download the games we bought from the eShop on the Switch itself, that would be one of the biggest fumbles of all time, and I could see this being a Wii to Wii U situation, where Nintendo had something super great and then kind of messed it up with the next console and it just didn't hit that broad stream appeal. Backwards compatibility is an absolute necessity to me, and I'm praying that Nintendo has the smarts to include it in their next console. Next, this is a small one, but no drift. This is obvious. It would be insane of Nintendo, while they're getting sued from multiple different parties, to not fix Joy-Con drift within the next console. Technically, almost all, analog sticks will end up getting drift. That's just, wear and tear. It just happens. But everyone knows that the Joy-Cons are way more susceptible than pretty much any other controller. Controllers like the Gamepad or Wii U Pro Controller, hell, even my Wii Nunchucks don't have drift. Yet my Joy-Cons got drift within just a couple of years. It's brutal, it's terrible, it's anti-consumer, and Nintendo has to fix this. On top of that, sticking on the same train, I hope the overall quality of the console is bumped up. I'm sure Nintendo made, the Switch with the intention of it being more of a high-quality console, but between Joy-Con drift, the interlocking mechanism between the Joy-Cons and the home console itself, occasionally getting a little wear and tear and then like jiggling a little bit when you're playing in handheld mode, and stuff like the super flimsy kickstand, which granted they did fix in the OLED model, there are just a couple of rough edges that the base Nintendo Switch console has that I definitely think they should clean up for the Switch 2 or Pro. Sticking on hardware, I'd love to see more hardware customizability. When the Switch was initially shown off, a bunch of talented animators, artists, and renderers mocked up these really neat Joy-Con variants that you could put onto your Nintendo Switch and just give you a completely different style of controller. And yeah, certain third-party controller manufacturers like Hori have developed controllers like the Split Pad Pro and other stuff like that that does give you some flexibility, but I'd love to see this straight from Nintendo. A while ago, my friend and I actually mocked up a fully rendered, Nintendo Switch Pro, and obviously this doesn't like look like 100% what they do, and hopefully they didn't, because it's a little bulky, it's a little ugly. But the coolest idea we had were these different controller pucks where you could switch out maybe the 4 face buttons for a different layout, more akin to say a GameCube controller, or switch out whatever sorry excuse of a D-pad this is for an actual D-pad. These little pucks could be magnetically inserted into the controller, kind of like MagSafe on an Apple laptop or the new iPhones if you've ever used that. And given that the Switch has just so many different types of games that require so many different, unique control schemes, it would be so nice to have. One more thing I want to see on the new Switch Pro is better UI. Now, I'm not going to let Nintendo off the hook here. Whenever I mention stuff like themes, a lot of people say, oh, the Switch's UI has to be super lightweight. They want it to be quick, snappy, and fast, and adding something like themes would kind of bog down the entire interface and therefore the user experience when you're switching between your games. Personally, I don't think that's true at all. The 3DS had themes, and while obviously it takes a little bit longer to boot up your 3DS, that's like a 0.5 second difference, and I don't think Nintendo cares that much about a 0.25 second difference between pressing the power button and the screen coming on. Especially when they could charge for themes, and that 0.25 second difference becomes, multi-millions of dollars of revenue for just putting JPEGs behind, your game icons. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea why they haven't put themes in here already. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. So let's just say that, hey, maybe it is they don't want to mess with the Switch. The Switch itself, all the power is like diverted to the game, so they don't want to mess with the UI. They got to keep it as simple as possible. The Switch Pro or Switch 2 will have better internals, so I'm expecting a way snappier, way better UI even with themes. On top of that, apps like the Nintendo Switch Online app should not be lagging when I go into them. I don't know if this is just me, but whenever I click that little red circle down at the bottom of the Switch, I feel like my Switch internals get transported back to like the original iPod Touch. Nah, screw it. It's like an iPod Shuffle is powering this thing. It just lags like there's no end to it. It's brutal, and I obviously, you know, you can't have that in a potential second iteration with the Switch 2 or Switch Pro. So those are the things I want to see on the new Nintendo Switch, but I need you guys to let me know down in the comments what you want to see. I'm sure I missed some things. I'm sure I just didn't even think of some things. So let me know down below, and also, when do you think we're going to get this? I feel bad not giving you guys a guess, but again, this is only a guess. I have no insider information, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. If I had to take a stab at it, I'd say maybe early fall 2023. I could see a September launch for this thing, or September or October, something like that. But that's only if it's a Switch Pro. If they're completely doing a Switch 2 and it's going to be, you know, a whole new thing and there's going to be a bunch of games exclusive to this console, then I think that's a 2024 holiday release, if that. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, though. I tried to pack all the Switch Pro stuff into this video because I don't want to just make a bunch of videos every time there's a new rumor or something, because I don't know, again, I don't think most of the rumors are accurate, but let me know down below, though, and hit the button on screen right now if you want to learn what the future of 2D Mario games actually is.